We have here Adam Merrifield. Is that how you say it?
Merrifield, yep.
We've just met, but actually we were introduced to your book from the AOA podcast.
Yes,
Average Ontario Anglers talked about it a little bit. They are great.
Fantastic guys.
So I heard about it there, but your son just roped us in by talking about river fishing, and so he was chatting with us a little bit. Sea Doggy, is that how you pronounce that?
Say Doggy.
Say Doggy. So can you tell us a little bit about that, what that is?
So yeah, the origin of the name, my daughter, who was I think maybe around 2 at the time, used to hear a dog barking outside of our window, and she used to say, "It's a doggy," except it would come out with her speech impediment as Say Doggy. And so I started a company 18 years ago called Say Doggy, and but it was actually software at the time. And so I've just actually relaunched that brand 18 years later as a fishing, book, apparel company. So yeah, that's where it came from. It came from my kids.
That's adorable. I have little kids, so I totally relate to that. They say the darndest things, you could say.
Yes.
So how did you transition from that into fishing, and what does fishing mean to you, and how did you come to write a book?
Yeah, so I've been fishing, so my mom rented a house when I was a small child, 4 or 5, that had a creek in the backyard. It was Laurel Creek in Waterloo, for Waterloo folks, represent. So my buddy actually lived across the creek, and we just spent all this time going back and forth across the creek. That eventually turned into fishing. So I've been fishing since, probably 5-6 years old. Got a little bit more advanced in my later years as my dad took me on fishing trips. I learned a little bit about that. Talk about that in the book. Then I had kids, sort of in my 20s. I wanted to make fishing easy for them, so I got them into ponds and stuff. I really lost that creek sort of river fishing perspective. And then, I sort of felt like I got out of it. I got back into, lakes. I got into the catch of boats. I got to have a bigger boat, a faster boat, get to this part of the lake. And, but meanwhile, I had the Grand River in Kitchener, 12 minutes in my backyard. So, there was a local angler who was big on the Grand River, Cam Scott, Southwestern Ontario Fishing, for anyone who follows him on Instagram. And so he took me up for a couple of trips. This is going back a number of years, and I really fell in love. Took my knowledge of fishing and my childhood life of fishing, put it back into what I know as an adult, and turned into a book a few years later. So
Waterloo's a pretty urbanized area, is it not?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Waterloo is, especially from Waterloo right down to Paris. It's pretty high pressured. It's pretty a lot of traffic. So
I can totally relate to that. I grew up in Brampton fishing stormwater retention ponds.
Yeah.
And it's pretty amazing how good the fishing can be in the most unexpected places. So like you're saying, you got kind of caught up in the lakes and the big boats without really realizing that you had this really great fishery that was right beside you, and you probably drove past it every day. So how did that turn into a book? And your son was kind of explaining, the book talks a little bit more about the why things work and why you should be doing certain things and that kind of thing. So I guess why is that important, and how did you get that into a book form?
So the idea for the book came along. So Fishbrain, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Fishbrain, but I was on Fishbrain a lot. I would post a catch, and I think more often than not, guys are posting a selfie of themselves with a fish, and there's no story behind it, right? I'm more of a storyteller. I wanted to kind of tell people why I caught this, what was happening at the time when I did catch it. People really got into the stories that I was telling. A few people actually said, I can see myself there in the way you tell the story. So one thing led to another, and I collected up enough information. I started to compile it into a book format, and after a year of writing, a year of sort of testing, and then writing a few more chapters, I published, May of 2023, and it's been amazing. Over 300 copies sold before today. We sold a couple hundred copies today, so
Good for you.
One thing led to another.
Well, here's the book. Mighty Smallmouth, Catching Big Bass on Small Water. The AOA guys highly recommend this, so I would say if you're interested or curious, check it out. And do you have somewhere like a website or something people can follow you and find out more?
Yep, you can go to saydoggy.com, all my apparel, books, and after this show, you'll be able to get my tackle as well.
Very cool. Adam, good to meet you. Thanks for taking the time.
Right on. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, take care.